Self-worth is really about how you see yourself, how you treat yourself, how you feel about yourself. The core self-worth is about your relationship with yourself. When we experience low self-worth, we feel that we're unworthy. We don't feel worthy of love, care, and respect. We often also feel that we don't have anything to contribute, right? That we don't have gifts or strengths to add, that we don't deserve the positions that we're in, the opportunities that we have, because we don't feel worthy of them. When you think about imposter syndrome is feeling like a fake or fraud despite evidence of high achievement. So this is getting into the school and graduating, getting the job, getting a promotion, but still feeling like you are tricking everyone into thinking that you are good enough.
Hi, I am Aboimboro, a corporate girl who also has multiple passions. When I'm not at my 9 to 5, I spend time focusing on growing my small side business that I love. I created From Stack to Unstoppable podcast to give you simple, actionable strategies to help you get unstuck from limiting beliefs and find your purpose. If you're a professional, a 9 to 5er, or an aspiring entrepreneur, and are looking to get out of your comfort zone, use your God-given talents and passion, you, my friend, are in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of From Stack to Unstoppable podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful time wherever in the world that you may be tuning in from. Now, if you question your self-worth, if you struggle with imposter syndrome and perfectionism, this episode is for you. My guest today is Dr. Adia Gooden. She's a licensed clinical psychologist. Dr. Adia is a sought-after dynamic speaker who gives talks and workshops on unconditional self-worth, imposter syndrome, and Black women and mental health. She gave a TEDx talk on cultivating unconditional self-worth that has over 1 million views. Dr. Adia hosts the Unconditional Worthy podcast and coaches high-achieving professional women to embrace their unconditional self-worth. So as you know that I'm very passionate about helping people get out of their comfort zone and live their lives fully, showing up and being their authentic selves, I wanted to have Dr. Adia on my show. And when she said yes, I couldn't be more happy. So we have a lot to cover, so let's get into it. Hi there, Dr. Adia. It's so nice having you on my show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Tell me, when people ask you, tell me about yourself, what do you tell them?
Oh, good question. I generally say that I am trained as a licensed clinical psychologist, and now I coach high achieving women around the area of self-worth, that I'm really passionate about helping people embrace the fact that they are unconditionally worthy. I also like to share that I'm married, that I have a daughter who is just about 1 year old, and I'm originally from Southern California, but I live and have lived in Chicago for the last 15 years.
Awesome. I love California. I lived there some time ago. I love the weather.
It's wonderful. I miss it a lot of the time.
I'm sure you're in Chicago, the windy city. Awesome. You're one of the people who articulate imposter syndrome and self-worthiness so perfectly. You have a highly watched TED Talk, which has over 1 million viewers, which is great. You also have a course on imposter syndrome. I took that course, and I was like, this course, I could have paid hundreds of dollars on this one. It was very helpful. And you do have a podcast, Unconditionally Worthy. Tell me, why is it so hard for women to cultivate that unconditional worthiness?
Well, I think the first thing we have to acknowledge is that we live in a society where there's sexism. And as women, we get a lot of messages that who we are and how we are isn't worthy, isn't valuable. We know that women are underpaid in the workforce. We know that women are often doing emotional labor or kind of engaging in these soft skills or doing things, whether that's in the workforce or in their homes, that is undervalued. Women also get messages that We need to look a certain way. We need to act a certain way. We need to be pleasant and nice and generous and selfless and putting everybody else first. We get all of these messages starting from when we're girls, that make us feel unworthy. I mean, even now we have lots of laws that are regulating and legislating women's bodies and our choices around our bodies, which sort of inherently says you're not trusted to make your own decisions about what you want to do with your body. I think it's really important to start with that context of we're sort of socialized into a culture that unfortunately does not fully appreciate and embrace women and all of the ways that we can show up. That's kind of the starting point. And then we may have different iterations of that in our families. And we then internalize a lot of these things and make up stories, which is you need to be perfect. I know that's what I did. I felt like something was off, something was wrong with me. I didn't feel fully lovable. So my conclusion was, well, you better be perfect. You got to be the perfect friend. You've got to be completely selfless. You've got to get the perfect grades and get into the right school. And then we can just really sort of pursue that and then be reinforced for pursuing that in a way that I think is unique to the experience of being a woman in this world.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's a lot. Even just hearing all the conditions that we are under, it's exhausting. I always wanted my work to be perfect. And I used to focus on, is this the right font? And how is this? And that would just end up being procrastination. So I had to work with mentors and coaches and take classes like yours to say, okay, done is better than perfect. I know that there's a lot of struggle there. How is the imposter syndrome tied to self-worth, low self-worth?
Yeah, it's a great question. First, I realized I didn't define self-worth. Self-worth is really about how you see yourself, how you treat yourself, how you feel about yourself. The core self-worth is about your relationship with yourself. When we experience low self-worth, we feel that we're unworthy. We don't feel worthy of love, care, and respect. We often also feel that we don't have anything to contribute, right? That we don't have gifts or strengths to add, that we don't deserve the positions that we're in, the opportunities that we have, because we don't feel worthy of them. When you think about imposter syndrome is feeling like a fake or fraud despite evidence of high achievement. So this is getting into the school and graduating, getting the job, getting a promotion, but still feeling like you are tricking everyone into thinking that you are good enough. We can see the connection between low self-worth or conditional self-worth, where our self-worth is based on conditions, and imposter syndrome, because when you don't feel worthy of good things, of opportunities, when you don't feel that you have anything to contribute, that very closely aligns with not feeling like you deserve the job, not feeling like you're smart enough to be in your role, et cetera, et cetera. I think of imposter syndrome as one manifestation of low self-worth.
Oh, wow. I've seen that a lot, even with my friends and the jobs that I have worked, all that self-doubt. I see even people sometimes don't want to take a promotion because they're scared. They feel, ooh, that's not for me. So what are some of the tools and strategies that one can use to cultivate that unconditional self-worth and to feel like, okay, I can do this? What can someone do?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something that I guide people through in my group coaching program, and I talk a lot about on my podcast. I cannot go through everything in this time, but I would say one of the most powerful strategies and practices that I've used on my self-worth journey and that I teach others is really practicing self-compassion. And self-compassion involves a few things. One is acknowledging and accepting how you feel. Instead of judging and criticizing yourself or shaming yourself and blaming yourself, you just acknowledge how you feel. Maybe you made a mistake, you're experiencing a disappointment, you've been rejected, something happened. Just acknowledge, like tune in, allow yourself to feel your feelings and acknowledge it. Then we want to remember that we're not the only ones. Often when we struggle with self-worth and when we struggle with imposter syndrome, we feel like I'm the only one. Everybody else has got it together. Everybody else knows what they're doing, knows what's going on. Everybody else is worthy, but I'm the only who is an imposter and is unworthy. And I shouldn't feel this way. And there's something wrong with me. We want to counter that narrative and remind ourselves this is a normal human experience. Unfortunately, lots of people go through feelings of shame, feelings of unworthiness, feelings of disappointment when something doesn't go right. So we want to just understand that this is a human experience, not something wrong with them. And then the last core part of self-compassion is offering ourselves comfort and encouragement. So it doesn't have to mean that you're saying, I'm the most perfect person ever and I never make mistakes, but you're saying, oh, that was so hard and it's okay. And I'm here for you. And we're going to get through this. And it wasn't the worst thing in the world. You just sent the email to the wrong people and we can clean it up. So you're encouraging yourself as you would encourage a friend or a child to help you calm down and soothe. That's a really powerful practice. And there's actually research that shows that practicing self-compassion can enhance your sense of self-worth.
Oh, very good. Would you also say practicing that self-worth, like having quotes or Bible verses, if you're a believer, of things that say, I'm good enough, I can do this, that kind of thing? Is it something that you can encourage someone to use?
Definitely. So I definitely think having reminders, having affirmations, having quotes is really helpful. And I think it's not enough. So I think those things are good. And it's really about shifting how we treat ourselves. It's about how do you talk to yourself, letting go of the self-criticism. It's about how do you treat yourself? Are you engaging in self-care? If we really want to get to that deep sort of embodied sense that we are unconditionally worthy, the affirmations and the quotes are really helpful to be reminders. And we do have to do some work to shift how we're treating ourselves and showing up for ourselves if we're going to get to that deeper level.
I also find that most of us look for external factors to make ourselves happy. How does one cultivate unconditional self-worth within instead of looking for external factors like shopping? Nothing wrong with shopping, but excessive shopping or going for things that you think are going to give you that worthiness. But then after that, a little bit, you feel empty.
The first thing is just to know that these external things aren't going to work to give you a lasting sense of worthiness. So kind of like what you're saying, shopping may feel good in the moment, that's fine, but it's not going to make you feel worthy. Like having a totally new wardrobe, like may give you some confidence, it may give you some energy, but it's not going to fill a hole of worthiness. So I think the first thing is letting go of the expectation that anything outside of you is going to give you a lasting sense of worthiness. That can be scary because people can feel like, well, that's what I've been trying to do for so long. And like, what am I going to do if I don't do this external thing? I think that's part of it. And that's also where using a practice like self-compassion can be really helpful. I also think it's seeking to give yourself the thing that you wish others would give you. We often spend a really long time longing for other people to love us unconditionally, to support us, to buy you things or take you to nice places or do things for you. And we withhold that from ourselves. And as women, we are often socialized to feel like we don't deserve it. We don't deserve to treat ourselves. We don't deserve to indulge ourselves and have fun and just play because we're told that that's selfish. So then we feel like the only way to get those things is for a partner to give it to us or someone else to give it to us. It can be a really powerful shift to start pouring in the love, the care, the acceptance, make time for fun, etc., into yourself that, you wait for other people to pour into you, to give that to yourself. And not just from a materialistic, I'm just going to buy things, but from a holistic place of tuning in and saying, well, what is it I need? And then how do I offer to myself from a place of love?
I totally agree with you. I'm going to tell you a story. I recently turned 57 years. 2 weeks ago. My family is not in this state. They are in a different state. And I said, okay, I am not sitting in my apartment alone during my birthday. So I drove all the way to Santa Fe and I went hiking. I did such fun things. I met people on the hiking trails and made friends. And I'm telling you, I felt so good because I wasn't waiting for my family to be with me alone. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Give yourself those things that you expect others to give you. Just do it for yourself.
I love that. I love that you did that and celebrated your birthday in the way that felt good for you and that you weren't waiting for someone else to give you permission to do that.
It really felt good. You recently co-authored a book and it's going to be out this month. Is it out yet?
Yeah, I did co-author a book. It was supposed to be out this month. We've recently learned from the publishers that there's a little bit of a delay. So it's going to be out in July. It's called Promoting Black Women's Mental Health, What Practitioners Should Know and Do. It's really a book about the experiences and nuanced experiences that Black women have, and particularly living in the US. The challenges that we face, the opportunities, the strengths, the resilience, the ways that we can heal, and the ways that people who work with us can understand our experiences, the ways that practitioners, coaches, therapists, physicians, all sorts of clinicians can help to support us on our healing.
Oh, wow. Awesome. So it's for anyone who's experiencing maybe even mental health issues, right? It's for anyone, I would say, really.
We really feel like it's going to be a book that helps Black women themselves, helps people who want to understand Black women. And certainly we talk about Black women's mental health, but the way the book is organized, there isn't a chapter on depression or anxiety, stereotypes that Black women have to deal with and navigate, and the strong Black woman phenomenon, how that shows up for Black women in relationships, childhood developmental experiences of Black women in trauma. We sort of organize the book around life experiences that Black women may have and giving insights into those experiences, talking about the challenges, and then also talking about sort of ways that Black women can heal from some of these challenges.
You do talk about that thing about a strong Black woman. Now, without going to your chapter on strong Black women, what do you think about that? Why is it that we hear, oh, you're a strong Black woman?
I think there are some Black women who draw a lot of strength from owning the identity of a strong Black woman, and that can be positive. We also know that adopting or feeling like you have to adopt the strong Black woman persona often keeps Black women from asking for help, from feeling like they can be vulnerable, from prioritizing themselves and taking care of themselves. It can also cause people in their lives to feel like they don't need anything, like they're taking care of everyone else. They don't need to be taken care of. I don't think that it's a wholly bad thing or a wholly good thing, but it's something that needs to be examined. It's something that we need to reflect on. If you're finding yourself operating as this strong Black woman, is that a self-protection? Is there a fear of asking for help? Have you been in places and spaces where there was no room for you to be vulnerable or need help from anyone? Are there ways that you can shift that? Are there relationships that you could build where you can also receive help and care? And are there ways that you can better take care of yourself? Because even if you do identify as a strong Black woman, you're still human and you still need nurturance and support and encouragement. I think it's really about sort of understanding where it comes from and then sort of being reflective and honest about how it's working or not working for you, and then making conscious, intentional choices to do something different if it's not working.
Awesome. What's the title of the book?
The title of the book is Promoting Black Women's Mental Health, What Practitioners Should Know and Do. And it's written by my colleague and friend, Dr. Donna Baptiste, and me, Adia Gooden.
I think also your mom wrote something in the book.
Yeah, so my mom wrote a book. My mom's name is Kumea Shorter Gooden. She wrote a book called Shifting: The Double Lives of Black Women in America. She co-authored that book in 2003. So we have a chapter in this book where my mom and I co-authored a chapter on the clinical implications of Black women shifting. We drew a lot from the insights and the wisdom that she highlighted in her book, and we put it into the context of how can clinicians understand shifting for Black women and support Black women around shifting. So it was a lot of fun to be able to write a chapter with my mom that was sort of based on her book that came out 20 years ago now.
Oh, 20 years ago. Wow, that's really good. Awesome. I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to everybody and a lot of us women. Once your book is out, I'll get in touch with you. And I would like to talk about that too in July. Tell my listeners where they can find you.
I have a website, which is dradiagooden.com. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Adia Gooden. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can search Dr. Adia Gooden. If you're curious about some of the things that I shared about self-worth, I'd encourage you to grab my free ebook, which is on 4 practices to connect with your self-worth. I sort of went over one practice, but there's 4 other practices in that ebook. And you can go to dradiagooden.com/free-ebook and grab that copy of the book. I'd love to hear from you.
I'm going to link again that to my show notes. You do have courses and that group courses that you do. I'm sure when my listeners get in touch with you, they'll learn more about that.
Yes, yes.
I could talk to you all day. I looked at your Instagram page and all the content that you give, and it's very invaluable. So I really thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Take care.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. One of my biggest takeaways is that when we struggle with the lack of self-worth and imposter syndrome, remember that we are not the only ones who feel this way, and that there's nothing wrong with us. And to counter that narrative that it is a natural human experience, the other thing is to have self-compassion, knowing that if you make a mistake, it's okay. You can correct it. So go out there and make things happen. Remember that you have something to contribute to the world, and there's someone out there who needs it. Now, I would like for you to share a takeaway of this episode and tag Dr. Adia and myself on Instagram. We would love to hear your feedback. And remember to download your free ebook, 4 Practices to Connect to Your Unconditional Self-Worth. Take care now.
Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, please take time to review and rate it. It's the fastest and easiest way to say thank you for creating this content. Until next time, keep thriving. I cannot wait to see you next week. Take care now.